Welcome back to Remote Work Bay. I have Eric Tang with me today. How are you doing, Eric?
I'm great, Audrey. Thanks for asking.
Do you want to tell a little bit about your story and share with our viewers what you do and what you're an expert at?
Sure. So I'm in commercial real estate finance. Been in the industry for a little over 15 years. I'm a local kid, grew up in Orange County, Southern California, went to school at USC, and I've been, in the real estate industry for the same exact time. So, really great to be on this podcast to share, kind of my knowledge on the real estate investment side, as well as just getting your viewers or listeners an opportunity to listen on my thoughts on the industry today.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of the middle of your workday, especially when I know how busy you are. I'm sure so many people have so many questions about real estate right now, especially what's going on in this pandemic. Could you share with us a little bit about where you think the real estate market is going in the next year, and especially in California?
Yeah, so obviously with a lot of challenges with COVID and the pandemic, it's put a lot of strain on households, individuals trying to make do with rent, job security and so forth. But we're seeing, at least from my perspective, a lot of opportunities in the residential single family market where people are looking to migrate away from dense urban areas where higher rents are leading towards decisions for certain individuals to look to buy homes and say that I can work from home, I don't need to be in the city, but I can also be close enough so that I can commute back and forth. So it's a very interesting dynamic that was very similar to, I would say, like the 1980s, 90s, where a lot of households were in the suburbs and commuting into the city for work. I think it's going to be temporary. I really think it's going to be more or less for people to have a wealth creation and investing in real estate, because I think a lot of folks are realizing you're paying $3,000-4,000 per month for rent. You can easily put that into a mortgage and save up and build equity in the house.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that are in real estate, and they're saying that right now it's booming. Why is that the case, especially in LA right now?
So I think a lot of people, I would say in that income bracket, a lot of folks do have a lot of savings. So one of the things that I always kind of advise people is that you should always try to save as much as you can, and when you do that, you build up enough for a down payment for a home. So I think in some aspects there are people who feel like I want to leave and I want to sell my home. At the same time, that gives opportunity for a lot of our colleagues and people we know in our generation that want to buy a house. So there's that cachet where you can buy a house and you can still feel like you own a piece of an investment and be a true homeowner too.
Do you think if people want to invest right now, do you think that they should wait, or do you think they should start looking now?
I think you should always try to look around. But definitely, given the uncertainty, I think it's prudent to wait. I think for homes that you really want to look for, and it's very specific. If you fall in love with a house, you love the neighborhood and location, and it warrants looking into actually acquiring or buying the property now. But some of my advisors I've talked to and brokers in the market tell me that probably should wait. I think you can definitely wait it out if you can and look for opportunities. We think values could probably fall anywhere between 10 to 20% in the next year.
Do you see changes in the interest rate as well?
Yeah, so I think interest rates will continue to be low. Now, I don't know if there's much room to fall further, lower, but there may be a case where you can wait to buy property and obtain a home mortgage, at easily sub 3% all-in interest rates. So it's a great time to buy a house and obtain financing to buy it. You just have to kind of capture the right timing where home prices aren't going to continue to fall, and also the concern is whether or not interest rates will actually rise and increase. So it's all about timing in our market, but I think that with real estate will some folks are actually capture the right timing to buy the right property.
So how about for homeowners like myself? Do you think it's important to hold on to our properties right now?
Yeah, so I think when looking at yourself and also myself as well as a homeowner, I think it really just depends on your objective and your goals. right? So I think for my case, I have a family with 2 kids. My wife and I have decided that, maybe in the interim, we can keep this for our kids. And that's more of a traditional afterthought of, wanting to preserve some kind of asset for our kids going up and not having them struggle through making a down payment and obtaining a mortgage to buy a new house in the future. If you can do that, that's great, because what it does is just helps them focus on other, investments and other, kind of opportunities elsewhere. I would say in your situation, if you look at it and say, can I actually, cover the mortgage, the expenses of owning the house? Can I rent it out? And maybe look at other opportunities if I have cash on the side to buy something, in this market, because there's certainly a lot of opportunities out there.
Yeah, it's been really interesting because in this whole pandemic, I'm sure you've heard about the loan deferrals. So I
Yeah.
think legally we've been able to defer loans for up to 6 months now. So it's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen in, I want to say, like a month or two from now, when we're all, people have to start paying their mortgage again. Do you think you're going to see a lot of foreclosures in that time?
It's a great question. So I think it really depends on timing of, whether or not we get a vaccine and COVID passes, right? So I think the government will continue to help with homeowners that see kind of more of a distressed situation with their financial situation as itself. But yeah, I think there's going to be some foreclosures. I think there's going to be some issues where, some lenders in certain states, I hate to say it's more, localized in nature of the evictions and foreclosures, but certain states will allow that to happen, while others will try to protect homeowners and renters.
Mhm.
So I think, kind of long story short, is that there is going to be some stress, and that's what's pointing towards my thought process on home values declining 10 or 20%, because you'll see a wave of potentially some foreclosure sales. And when that may come to the market, it really depends on the state. In California, foreclosures could take easily up to 4 to 9 months, depending on the processes, the courts, and actually getting it marketed for sale.
Right. And how about on the commercial side? What are some of the trends you're seeing there?
So great question, since that is in my industry, and especially since I'm working for a lender.
Mhm.
We've looked at a lot. Obviously, we've done a lot of COVID-19 forbearances and loan deferrals. With most of our assets that need that assistance. So the asset types in our industry that are really hitting hard are hospitality and retail. So hospitality meaning the hotels, and my firm has quite a bit of hospitality and hotel exposure, but we've been willing to work on deferral for P&I, principal and interest payments. And with loans that are coming due that we work with, we understand that some hotels may do well, but it might take 4 or 5 years to kind of return back to the normal operations in 2019. So we'll do what we can to stay in and help out. But at the same time, working for a lender, we do have to make sure that the loan's current and borrowers are making their payments.
Mhm.
So in our industry, I think that we're willing to work out on deals and assets and property types that make sense for us. But
Mhm.
on certain properties that may have lost value and were what we call underwater, where the loan to value is exceeding 100%, sometimes lenders may look at different alternatives. They may foreclose on it. They may try to sell the mortgage note to an investor that is willing to take on the loan itself, or we may just try to work out a restructure and see if we can get that loan paid down so that the loan to value is below 100% on the threshold.
And do you see a lot of these, I guess, these hospitality businesses struggling already? And how are they going to stay afloat?
Great question. So, we've talked to a lot of commercial brokers in the market who, cover a lot of these hotel assets. And look, they are struggling as a lot of, individuals in this current environment are. Those businesses are, truly operating businesses. They have employees, they have union staff, they do have high operating costs. And, what it requires is that they have to go to their partners and ask for additional cash or equity to carry their operations. Otherwise, they may just close down. There was a report in New York that said that up to 20% of hotels in New York may close permanently because they're
Wow.
just not able to carry and continue operations.
Wow, that's so sad. The other week I was reading, I forgot where I was reading this, but they were saying that 60% of the restaurants in LA have closed already permanently, which is so crazy. I don't know if you know anything on the restaurant side as well. That's pretty sad.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, I did read a report that it wasn't 60%, but it was 25% of global restaurants across the entire
Wow.
world may shut down permanently. So that's even a more staggering number across all countries on the
Mhm.
planet. No, I think they're facing the same dilemma. With COVID, they can't open for in California, no in-room dining or in restaurant dining is allowed. That's only allowing for takeout and delivery, and that only accounts for maybe 20 or 30% of certain top line revenues for restaurants, and restaurants need 50-60% of revenue to kind of break even.
Mm.
So they're struggling. They're asking for government assistance through the PPP, payroll protection plan, or act, for relief on funding their payroll. They're asking for relief through the CARES Act. They're asking their lenders to defer business loans as well. But there's only a certain point, and we're seeing, at least on our side, a lot of retail bankruptcies too. Not only restaurants, but you're seeing every day a new department store, clothing retailer, restaurant group file for bankruptcy protection.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that the business is going out. It's just that they just can't carry all their expenses and loan payments. So they have to file for bankruptcy to reorganize and try to work with their lenders.
What happens in a bankruptcy? What does that look like when a business files for bankruptcy?
So one caveat, I'm not an attorney, so I'm only just
Yeah.
going to provide my viewpoint on the bankruptcy process. But generally that is an avenue for a lot of what we call debtors or borrowers to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, to basically put a stay or a kind of pause from the lender to move forward to collect on their debt.
Mm.
What they do is they submit a bankruptcy plan to reorganize and to hopefully agree with all their lenders to say, I need more time. I need to have you guys finance, actually provide more loans, believe it or not, to carry me through bankruptcy and out. And some of the lenders may say, well, why am I doing this? Why am I, the quote is throw good money after bad. And the simple answer is to say, well, you can collect at the end, maybe some return of your original loan that put out. It could be 20 cents on the dollar, 30 cents on the dollar. But if the company goes out completely and files what they call a Chapter 7 bankruptcy,
Mhm.
that's a complete liquidation and you may not even get a cent back.
Mhm.
So a lot of lenders may work on the bankruptcy and to hope with businesses that they return to business in a normal condition. We saw PG&E, which is a large utility company up in Northern California, file for bankruptcy because of the wildfires that they were liable for, and they have now been exited out of bankruptcy with like a new restructure with their lenders and a new wildfire relief fund, which hopefully should help them. But again, we always say that when companies file for bankruptcy, there's a true business issue, and there's always risk that they may go back to bankruptcy again.
Yeah, I mean, every day I'm seeing more and more large businesses file for bankruptcy, which is it's really sad. I wish there was more positive news every day, but it's been very crazy in the city. And I kind of want to touch upon offline conversation about the migration of people out of cities. What are your thoughts on that after doing some research? Do you think more and more people are just migrating out of major cities because they don't have to be here to work in these offices this year? And what is that going to look like for a city like LA?
Great question. We're focused on San Francisco and Los Angeles, given their high beta rents and affordability issues. And, what we're seeing is that, yes, I mean, with companies that are allowing employees to work from home, a lot of, engineers, especially in San Francisco, in the city, tech engineers, software engineers are deciding, I could save money and live with my parents, move out of the city and work remotely for a year. I mean, Google, Dropbox, Twitter, Facebook all kind of announced the work from home order for their employees for the immediate term. And And so what that gives a lot of employees are the ability to, pack up, save some money, live somewhere else, maybe venture out to a new city they never visited. It gives them opportunity to expand their horizon and look towards living in a new environment and be able to work at the same time and make a living. In Los Angeles, I think it's such a diverse and wide geographic area. Some people have said, like, I'll stay in Los Angeles because it's such a mecca of different cultural industry groups, different aspects of the markets. West LA is so different from downtown LA. You have San Gabriel Valley, you have the Inland Empire, and Orange County as well. So, you have different groups, but they're all intertwined in the Southern California market. So yeah, there are going to be some folks that might decide I can live elsewhere and not be in Southern California. But I think given kind of the immense diversity in Southern California and Los Angeles, there hasn't been that strong of a movement for people to move out immediately. I think it's because San Francisco, with rents being closer to where New York is at $4,000 per month. Yeah. That's just really hard for someone to just continue to pay when you don't need to be in that area.
So I'm originally from the Bay Area, and I was talking to a couple of my friends online earlier before this call and was surprised to hear that a lot of them have basically moved out of San Francisco, the city, and back to suburbs where they're from or their family's at. And so I wonder, what do you think that's going to look like after, say, they find a cure and, by the end of this year? Do you think that companies are going to ask people to come back to work? And do you think people will have to move back to the city? What do you think that looks like in the next, say, year or two?
So talking about the office environment, I think, a lot of companies are focused on that. And, I've talked to some office landlords and office REITs, real estate investment trust companies that own a lot of office buildings. And, they're trying to look at the new norm, which is, social distancing, spacing out the office space. So for instance, if an office used to have 8 employees per 1,000 square feet, now they're doubling that and say, let's densify the area and make it 4 per 1,000. And so what they're trying to do is encourage to give some, employees the hope that they can, be healthy, safe, and socially distanced in the workplace. Mm-hmm. Now, some employees may not be back, and that's why, there's an argument that there may be a flexible work environment where employees may be in the office twice a week, 3 times a week, and alternate. Companies are trying to do a lot of research on that, but really it's really unknown because Google, some of the deep tech firms, they need to have that R&D and collaborative work environment, and it's really hard, at least from my perspective, it's really hard to do that kind of research without being in the office. Mm-hmm. You look at the chip manufacturers, all that office design, yeah, it can be done virtually, but at the end of the day, you do need the hardware, your research labs to conduct biotech research, with the clean rooms. You have to do, the clean rooms are also with chip manufacturers as well. And then, with additional collaborative work on research projects, you see that benefit and efficiency of being in the office to collaborate together and talk at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I think, once the pandemic's over, with the vaccine, and if it's truly healthy to be back in the office, I think you'll see it return back into the cities. It may be a different, interim environment where you do have distance office workplaces, but I think for the time being, people are going to be distanced. Once we get the vaccine and everything's safe, we can be back in the office.
Mm-hmm. And what's your knowledge of co-working spaces, considering you're in, commercial real estate, and how do you know how like WeWorks are doing? As a remote worker for so long, I've been hopping around to all these different co-working spaces, but haven't been in one all year. Do you think they're going to survive? Do you think they're going to be shifting the way they run their businesses, or are they still going to be around?
So this is my personal opinion, but it's also kind of embedded in the industry and among my peers. So WeWork is struggling. There's no doubt about it. They gave back, I think, 160,000 square feet of 300,000 square feet at Wilshire Courtyard, which is in kind of the mid-Wilshire district of Los Angeles. Yeah. They are renegotiating with landlords. They're trying their best to, preserve cash. They're in a cash burn situation. We all know the issue with SoftBank and their devaluation, the failed IPO. Regus, as the second largest operator of co-working spaces, just filed some of their U.S. subsidiaries into bankruptcy protection. Mm. So I think there's a need for co-working space, but I think the problem was the last 5 to 7 years, the growth of those co-working spaces prices outgrew the demand. And now they're realizing that even with the pandemic, they can't have enough cash on their balance sheets and to preserve their operations at the same time if there's, a drop in demand. No one's going in. Maybe some folks are going into certain locations, but it's certainly not covering, their high expense load. They give, great amenity spaces, kind of great, services to their tenants, but they all come at a cost. And if they're not charging enough rent or getting enough revenues, they're just burning cash and they just can't seem like viable businesses in this market.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to turn it around is, to have people come back to the office, which I mentioned will only be, viable if we can return safely with the vaccine and everyone being healthy.
Mm-hmm. And do you see this as the same case for membership clubs like Soho House and a bunch of these other members only clubs that have popped up in the last couple of years?
Yeah, so those are interesting because I think they cater towards a certain socioeconomic demographic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really depends if they can conduct those type of memberships and services, half virtually or even provide something that's more distance, because it does come with a certain cachet to be a member. It's kind of akin towards credit cards and how people are debating whether or not they want to cancel credit cards or keep it because of the name brand recognition and kind of, like I said, the cachet that comes with, holding a membership or a credit card.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know I have so many friends that are part of these membership clubs, and I'm just wondering, like, if they're struggling or how they're doing, or because they're catering towards, more of like, say, the top 5%, that they're still doing okay. Because I know the Soho houses, at least in LA, are all open back up.
Yeah, and look, certain clubs, memberships, gyms as well may continue to charge membership fees, even through this time, because they know that their clientele want them to continue to be successful and continue to operate. So they'll continue to charge memberships. Whereas other gyms, or memberships, or like the Soho houses, it just really depends. But like 24-hour fitness and my gym in downtown LA, stopped collecting membership dues. And they said, look, we're just trying to accommodate the fact that you can't come in. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, if we're back to the office, I want you guys to be successful. I want you to operate, continue to collect dues. If you don't, then I'm concerned that, you may be gone as well.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be really interesting to see where that goes in the next couple of years as well. And I have a personal question. So for those of you that don't know Eric, he's also very knowledgeable in the credit card and point space. And I actually got my Amex Platinum card because of Eric. And so I've kind of been sitting on all these different credit cards as well. And the reason why I got the Platinum card is for the Centurion Lounge. Because when I travel, honestly, it's so much better than Priority Pass. So this whole year, I mean, I haven't used that card or the Centurion Lounge once because we haven't been able to travel. Where do you think that's going to go? Like, do you think that, especially with how high the fees are, like the Platinum card's like $550 a year, do you think that Amex will open back up these lounges soon? Like, what are they going to do? Do you think they're going to waive the fee for people that haven't been able to use these benefits?
The membership fees, like say for the American Express Platinum card, they cover the operating expenses to operate and own the Centurion lounges. Like hotels, airlines are businesses that are in distress given the pandemic, and travelers and the travel industry has been hit especially hard. Passengers going through airports are all-time low at this point. Going back to 2008 and even down to post 9/11. So and that trend has still kind of been suppressed. They need to have the flightership up to that 2019 levels to even open up these lounges. Otherwise, one, they won't survive because they're not getting enough foot traffic through. Some of these lounges actually do charge. Surprisingly, some passengers do pay to access these lounges. And whether or not it's through our credit cards or just kind of one-time visits, they are a business. And with the Platinum card specifically, to offset going back to the high fees, the $550 annual fee, American Express has tried to offset that. They've provided mobile or cellular credit. They're doing $20 per month for your cell phone bill as a credit, and then they're also giving you a $20 credit for streaming devices, streaming networks like Netflix and Disney Plus as well. So they're trying to justify keeping that, having cardholders keep the card and not cancel it, and to justify the fact that you're not traveling to use the card, but you're able to offset the annual fee with these benefits. It's really TBD, or it's unknown to see how they're going to continue on those credits going forward, because it is a credit or offset loss for them to continue to provide those credits to all cardholders. So I really think it just really depends on when the travel industry comes back. And some folks have said that the travel industry, especially with airports and travel itself via plane, that's going to be closely tied with hotels, which may take 3 to 4 years to return to normal.
Yeah.
So we probably won't see a lot of the lounges open up next year as well. I think it's just going to be the new norm, at least for the short term.
Yeah, it's so sad because I think the Centurion Lounge in LAX was supposed to open this year if they haven't already.
Yeah, that's right. And that was the most anticipated opening. For a lot of us local residents down here to travel through Los Angeles International Airport, that lounge was supposed to be open, the newest one of the Centurion collection. And prior to the pandemic, actually, funny enough, American Express was trying to limit the amount of folks that went into these lounges because of the issue of overcrowding and the fact that the American Express Platinum card was getting popular with a lot of our generation and folks that realized there was a lot of benefit to that. So it for me, it's interesting, the complete 180 reversal from having overcrowded Centurion lounges to not even having them open at all.
Right. It's pretty sad. Do you think that people will be keeping a lot of their memberships, or are there going to be major changes with a lot of these cards that you've recommended to me?
Yeah, and I think it will. You're seeing a lot of enhanced sign-up bonuses right now, referral bonuses as well with a lot of the cards, just to entice people to keep up with it. I think it really depends on your individual situation. But I plan on keeping certain cards. Certain cards I've downgraded or canceled, but it just depends on what makes sense and what you're trying to achieve. With American Express and with Chase, Citi, and the other credit card providers, I think the majority of them are trying to decide whether or not they want to keep those annual fees or reduce them, and to entice better offer for people in this current environment.
Could you talk a little bit about cards you recommend? And I guess for, say, a newbie that's never played the points game, could you talk a little bit about what it's about, why it's useful to earn these points, and what can people use these for?
Sure. So, it really depends on ultimately how many cards you want to own and, which loyalty programs you want to be in. Chase does have its 524 rule. So that's always kind of been the main mantra for a lot of folks that are looking at credit cards. It's been emphasized that whatever you do, ensure that you only have 5 credit cards for every 24 months that you open. And that kind of segues into, opening up the Chase branded credit cards first. So there's Chase Sapphire Reserve, Sapphire Preferred, but they're only actually allowing you to own one or the other product. You can downgrade to it, but I think you can only own one or the other. I'll have to check on that. But and then there's also the Freedom Unlimited and the Freedom cards. So those 4 cards already take up 4 of the 5 allocation if you try to apply for all 4. But the main priority is Chase Sapphire Reserve that most have owned or at least applied for. It's very similar to the American Express Platinum card, Gold card, and the Green card. Kind of all 3 have been kind of in conjunction, whether or not you earn points through travel, through restaurants, and just looking at what's your objective when your most organic spend is. So I think looking at that really truly depends on which loyalty program you like. I mean, do you like the Marriott or the Hilton or the Hyatt branded hotels, or are you agnostic to it and you're okay with going to any type of hotel? Because then you can redeem the regular generic American Express membership rewards points for hotel stays. Same thing with Chase, and the ultimate rewards points you can transfer into certain hotel partners to redeem those.
Right.
But if you're a loyal hotel kind of guest, there's some tremendous sign-up bonuses through American Express on their Bonvoy cards. At least at certain points, I think the Bonvoy Brilliant card was going for 130,000 points. Now it's 75. So it also depends on the timing of when those sign-up bonuses are being offered and how much are they. My kind of key rule is if it's 6-figure sign up bonus. That's definitely enticing, and you
Yep.
can always downgrade those cards to a no fee card after you use it.
Mhm. Yeah.
We try to not to cancel it,
Mhm.
but just to downgrade it so you can keep your credit history.
Yeah, we were just talking about that offline. Thank you for letting me know that you can downgrade a card, because like I was telling Eric, I mean, I have over almost like $2,000 worth of credit card annual fees, and like how little I'm using my perks of these cards. It's making me kind of look at what it is that that I can use this year, right? And so super interesting. But I think I will be keeping the platinum card, Amex platinum card, and I think my favorite card is still the Chase Sapphire Reserve. And but you just got the gold, right? The Amex, was it gold?
Yeah, I got the Amex Gold card that has 4x on U.S. supermarkets and restaurants. And, it really depends on your objective. So, kind of long story short, given the fact that no one's traveling and we may, I have 2 young kids, my objective has been, converting my MR points or membership rewards points to my Schwab account. And, I have a Schwab branded American Express Platinum card. I can transfer that at a 1.25 times bonus into a Schwab IRA or investment account and open it for my kids and, redeem it that way. And it's a great source of just kind of contributing into investing to the family. But again, that really depends on your objective. Mine's right now just focused on the family and not traveling so much, but I may pick it up again, in the next few years and start this travel and credit card churning game again.
So much information. Where could people go? Where could people go to learn a little bit more about credit card points? How can they use their points, and types of cards to sign up for?
Well, this is not a promotion, but definitely the Points Guy was the first site that I think a lot of folks have looked towards as being the popular site. There's Dr. Credit. There are other blogs as well, and I can't think of the top of my head, but there are searchable blogs that you can follow that generally have talked about it. I've looked at different YouTube channels. There's Ask Sebi. There's Chris Shifu or Shifu. They're all kind of great about explaining, current offers. They're very up to date. They do almost daily or twice or 3 times a week blogs on the YouTube. So they've been great resources as well. And I also have a Slack group that I was invited to that I always ping off ideas and get kind of the latest information from there as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll get all this information and add it to the comments below of this video. Thank you for all of these recommendations, Eric. So let's get into something more personal, since we are a remote work bay channel. So I know that you were doing this crazy commute. So Eric lives in Irvine, and he used to take the train, which was like 45 minutes to an hour, all the way from Irvine to downtown and back every day to work in downtown in his office. But in the last 5 months, you've set up your office at home outdoors, from what I recall last time we chatted. Wait, tell us a little bit about that and how that's shifted for you.
It's very interesting. So I've been in my current employer for about 2.5 years. One word of advice is that you never want to have more than 3 modes of transportation to get to your office. I have 4. All right. So I drive to the train station.
Okay.
I take the Metrolink or Amtrak to LA Union Station, and I transfer through the Metro Red or Purple Line subway to 7th and Figueroa, and then I walk from the station to my office.
Oh my gosh.
So that all door to door is around 2 hours. And everyone knows, and I think the whole world knows about the notorious reputation of Los Angeles traffic. You can be stuck there for 2-3 hours easily each way. Yeah. And my thought process in commuting was, look, driving is great. You can leave on your own terms, but it's draining. I would say, every day I'd get up at, close to 5 to drive in, and I realized I couldn't do that. And riding the train gave me the opportunity to work and sleep or listen to podcasts, listen to Audible audiobooks as well, and at least spend my time commuting doing something else. When the pandemic happened, we first didn't hear about it until probably early March. I actually surprisingly was on a business trip to San Francisco right when kind of San Francisco was the first city to basically say everyone's going home, don't come in the office. It's essentially stay-at-home orders. Yeah. Came back and I had to quarantine myself. My boss said I had to quarantine for 14 days because of what happened in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then soon enough, we found out just, immediately thereafter that, California was rolling out orders to stay at home. And, originally, when I was starting to the work from home, process, I just had my laptop. My office has kind of dual screen as most, office companies and companies that are employing their offices dual screen, 3 screens, or even 4 screen at times.
Yeah.
I found that it was very inefficient for me to just look at one screen and toggling through applications. So I actually had a 4-screen setup. I had monitor arms attached to a table. I had a standing desk, and I was pretty efficient, working that way. The only problem was, of course, we all realized the summer heat can get, pretty nasty out here. So, right now it's about 97 outside. It was 102 yesterday. I couldn't stand it. At some point I decided I needed to kind of work interiorly. So I tried the garage. That didn't work because it was much hotter.
Oh gosh. Wait,
Even though it was away from the sun.
So your setup was originally at home, was outside in the backyard.
Yeah, it was outside in the backyard, kind of in what we have here. It's called the California room, where it's basically a covered area, but it's open on all 3 sides. So, but the problem is my backyard faces the sun in the morning, so I get this direct sunlight hitting on my legs, hitting on my monitors. It was just right in the heat in the morning.
Wow.
I slugged it out for a while, but then I decided that this was just too much. So I moved into the garage to set up my standing desk, but the heat was so oppressive. Even in, without the sunlight, you still feel that heat here.
Yeah.
So I did get, and I invested, I don't know, maybe a couple $1,000s into looking into resources on my own. I mean, this is aside from the company, but on my own to figure out what to do, with a computer monitor set up at home. But the problem is it just takes up so much space, right?
Yeah.
You're living in such confined quarters. You don't want to spread out and have that as a permanent fixture. It just doesn't look great, right? Your home's your home. You try to want to have that separation. Yeah. So I went on Kickstarter actually and just invested in something called the Trio, which is a company called Mobile Pixels created a tri-screen setup. So you would have your MacBook, and then what you have is you attach via magnetic strips, basically slide out monitors from this attachment. So to look like basically you have, 3 monitors, your main monitor from your MacBook, and then 2 side monitors sticking out that slide out. And you can slide it in and out and collapse it and just carry it away with you. So I've been using that.
With like a magnetic strip on your laptop?
Yeah, so it stick on the back of your magnetic, on your laptop cover, where the monitor is, and you can just slide it out. So it just basically looks like a flap. I'll show you some photos of it. We can maybe post it for your.
I'll put it in the link below once I figure it out myself. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So it's the same size. So it's like 3 monitors.
Yeah. So I think they're 14 or 15-inch monitors on each side. And then I have my MacBook Pro. It's a 2016 edition. It's 15.4 inches. So it looks a little smaller on the sides, but it's great because basically it's like a seamless 3-screen setup, and it's mobile because I can just take my laptop and move it around. If say my kids need some time downstairs, or I need to be in a quiet area, I can always go to a different room. But no, for now I'm confined indoors, just given the heat. It's just much easier to work in air-conditioned space.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's such a great tip. Do you still have a standing desk at home, or how else does your setup look like outside of the 3?
So I took down the standing desk. It does take quite a bit of room. And it's clunky. It's not really attractive. They don't really make the standing desks as attractive, as home furniture, because they have just these magnetic kind of pillars that move up and down the actual desk itself. So you have these giant industrial table legs that just take up a lot of space and a lot of weight. And, if you have it indoors, it is, a little bit of a hazard because of the kids running around. They may play with it. So I try to either unplug it, but at times I just basically decided it's best to be outdoors. But even then, with the heat, I just took it down and just basically said, I'm better off just trying to figure out how to work comfortably and shorten out my work hours so I can balance working with kids as well. Because, as a working parent, it's really difficult. I'm sure a lot of people are going through this, with the kids in California, especially going virtual with their schools. I have to sit next to my son at times. And I think most parents would have to, while I work, while I attend his, in-person virtual classroom. So he's going to look at a tablet or a laptop, looking at the instruction on the screen while I sit next to him and I'm working at the same time.
So tell me about that dynamic. I mean, your kids are how old?
So my eldest is 3.5, so he's in preschool,
Yeah.
and then my daughter is 2. And
How is that? How is that working for you, having to be a parent and also work at the same time? Has that been difficult? How does that dynamic work, and how do you separate the two? Say if you had like a business meeting, like how would that even work for you?
it's not easy, and I have to give a lot of credit to my wife. Like she's a high school English teacher, and facing the same dynamic. We're both, needing to be on business conference calls. Either they're live streamed or they're in, telepresence, and we both have to be in separate rooms so that we can hear and talk at the same time. It's a fine balance. I'll admit I've been on conference calls while I'm changing diapers, feeding my kids, doing everything I can. My wife, helps, a lot by cooking, so that all that kind of heavy legwork is done up front. And I can kind of take over in the mornings while she teaches her classes. And then we'll see how it goes day by day. I mean, again, having a 3.5-year-old and 2-year-old, it's an adventure every day. Some days they're in a good mood, some days they're not in a good mood, and I think most parents would understand that, what I mean by that. So I think it is a day by day adventure. I take it in stride because I think it is a learning process. It's a rite of passage. If we choose to have kids, or for some people who don't want to have kids, I think it's a big life changer. And especially with the pandemic, it makes you realize how critical it is to balance your time and to juggle around with different priorities. And sometimes I have to unmute myself and apologize to my boss when I'm on a conference call and just tell her, sorry, the kids are just kind of screaming in the background or acting up in the background, and they can't talk when they're asking me a question. So how I approach this, I mean, my wife and I just talk, and we just try to team up and lay out what works, what doesn't work, what we need to do every day, and just kind of go through a mental checklist. And if things don't work out, we've asked for, my mother-in-law, her mom's been very grateful in helping out. We have, part-time babysitter to help out. And the great thing is, although, it could be controversial, I mean, most people may or may not decide to send their kids to in-person daycares. That option is available as well. But, I think
available now in the pandemic.
Yes. So daycares are allowed to open because they're not regulated by the Department of Education in California. They're actually operating under the Department of Health and Sciences. So they operate in a different branch, and as long as they can maintain all the protocols, CDC guidelines, wearing masks, and face shields and so forth, and sanitizing everything, washing hands, they're allowed to operate. I've known quite a few daycares are open and available.
Interesting. Okay. Wow. That's really good to know. I didn't know that. And I think you're super lucky too. Not everybody has a partner to help them with their kids, nor are they able to, have their parents or someone else help watch the kid. I mean, could you even imagine if you were a single parent doing this by yourself? That would be so crazy, right?
Yeah. I don't think, I really feel for the ones that are single parents or just trying to manage it on their own at home while working and having the kids. Like I said, like even with my wife and I working and tending to the kids, it's a struggle and it's not easy.
Yeah, for sure. Lucky kids that they have both you and your wife there to help them with school and everything as well right now. And I hope you guys are doing okay. I'm lucky that I have no one to fend for but myself right now. But I can only imagine how busy you guys are. And, even after work, you're pretty much still at home, right? So when do you get a time for a break for yourself?
I would say after the kids go to sleep, right? So, you wake up, and it's either 6 or 7, the kids are up and ready to go. They want to either play or they want to eat breakfast. Then I jump into work, and luckily we do have some help to help us with the kids during the daytime. And then you go all the way through nighttime. After work, gotta get food ready. We gotta cook for the kids, feed them. bathe them, put them to bed, and then that's when you can start to kind of relax. But you can't, because you have dishes, you have chores to do. So realistically, it's probably a good 30 minutes to an hour break right before you want to just pass out and go to bed. And it's rinse, wash, repeat, so to
Oh my
speak.
gosh. Well, I hope this pandemic is over sooner than later, so you'll get to use your credit card points and take you and your wife on an amazing vacation when this is all over.
Yeah, I know a lot of us are dying to travel, and
Yeah.
it will provide some kind of relief and break, just to kind of get out of the house.
Yeah, for sure. Well, do you have any last words of advice or feedback on points or investing for our viewers today?
I would just say that look at your own financial situation. Make sure that, one, you do have enough saved up for any emergencies. Two, look at your budget. Look at things that you can cut out. If it's an excess item that you can cut out or not live with, or live without it, you can definitely just look at trying to save and just kind of manage your budget through this time. If you're able to kind of look at opportunities, I would say now's a good time to look to invest. Now's a good time to look at opportunities if you're looking into the credit card game and churning and obtaining miles and points. Look out for those offers. I wouldn't say jump on it right away, but I'd say just keep your eyes and ears open, and constantly network and try to find out what's out there and available to you. Whether you want to learn about real estate investing, into credit cards, or looking to budget, it's always a great time just to reach out to people and obtain some knowledge on it.
Absolutely. And how can people find you if they want to connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. But other than that, I actually, long story short, I don't have Facebook or Instagram at this moment, but I definitely want to just kind of keep it more traditional with the LinkedIn and Twitter platform.
Okay, and I'll add that contact to the links below as well. But thank you so much, Eric, for taking time out of your busy day to chat with me.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you.
Yeah, and please, I hope you guys are doing well, and I can't wait to see you in person at some point.
Yeah, definitely. We do need to catch up. I really appreciate that, Audrey, and thank you for all of the years of our close friendship, and really appreciate that.
Of course. All right, have a great day.
Okay.